The oven was already burning, its flames licking the candy walls as the air turned thick with ash and sugar. Gretel stood outside, her hands trembling, watching the house collapse into itself. She should have felt relief, but she didn't, because Hansel wasn't with her. He had chosen to stay, chosen her, the witch, and in that choice, something deeper had been broken. This wasn't the story you remember. Before the fire, there was a promise. Two siblings against the world, clinging to each other through hunger and fear. But when they found the house in the woods, only one of them saw danger. The other saw home. And once the forest opened its mouth, it didn't want to let go. What if Hansel didn't want to be rescued? What if the real trap wasn't the witch, but the bond that held them together? Bell, if you love twisted versions of classic tales, subscribe now and hit the bell icon. These aren't the stories you grew up with. These are the versions hidden in the shadows. Because in this version, the fire wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The forest wasn't supposed to be that quiet. Even in the worst winters, the trees whispered, the leaves crunched, and creatures rustled just beyond sight. But as Hansel and Gretel stepped deeper into the woods, hunger gnawing at their bellies and fear tugging at their heels, the world grew still, unnaturally so. Their father had taken them out with kind eyes and soft lies, claiming they'd gather firewood, but vanished when the shadows thickened. That night, they slept against a crooked tree, hands locked together like armor. In the morning, a house shimmered between the branches. Candy walls, sugar windows, chimneys that puffed cinnamon-sweet smoke. Hansel's eyes lit up. Gretel's narrowed. Gretel tugged his arm, whispering that it could be a trick. But Hansel had already broken a piece of caramel from the gate. It melted on his tongue and brought color back to his cheeks. A warm laugh echoed from inside the house, a woman's voice. An invitation. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, it was warmer than any place they'd known, full of food, cushions, and soft lullabies floating from the walls themselves. Gretel hesitated. Hansel didn't. The woman with silver hair and dark eyes called herself Mother Maren. Her smile was full of teeth. That night, Gretel woke to find Hansel gone from the straw mattress beside her. Candlelight flickered beneath a closed door down the hallway. She crept silently and peeked through a crack. Hansel was sitting at a table, smiling, as Mother Maren brushed crumbs from his face and stroked his hair like he was her own. Gretel didn't move. She didn't speak. She simply watched as her brother leaned into the witch's touch with a softness she hadn't seen since before their mother died. That gentleness scared her more than the dark. The next morning, Hansel said he hadn't left the room. As days passed, the food never ran out, and neither did the warmth. But the windows didn't open. The trees outside didn't move. Gretel noticed things the way children do. Intuitively, when she spilled soup on the floor, the stain disappeared. When she whispered doubts aloud, the paintings on the wall shifted ever so slightly. Hansel, meanwhile, grew more serene. He stopped asking about their father, about leaving. He began calling Mother Maren Mama. He said it without blinking, without looking at Gretel. One night, she pressed him, "We have to go." His answer was quiet. "Why would we leave?" That was the moment Gretel understood something was unraveling. Not around them, but inside Hansel. He wasn't being held against his will. He was choosing this, choosing her. And Gretel didn't know whether it was magic or heartbreak that was changing him, but something was. She made a plan that night to escape, not because she feared the witch, but because she feared losing Hansel to her. Yet as she lay awake, clutching her brother's old scarf to her chest, she heard his voice in the hallway, low and content, saying good night not to her, but to the witch. Gretel began mapping the days by the flicker of candles and the rhythm of meals. There was no sun through the windows, only a warm, amber glow that never changed. She marked walls with hidden scratches, trying to count how long they'd been there. But every mark vanished the next day. She found a cupboard filled with nothing but spoons. Hundreds of them, all polished, all different. When she showed Hansel, he laughed and said she was imagining things. "You always see monsters where there aren't any," he said, eyes calm, voice detached. It wasn't like him. It wasn't him at all. One night, when Mother Maren was away, Gretel snuck into the cellar. There were no food supplies, no firewood, only rows of mirrors covered in black cloth. She pulled one down. For a moment, the mirror showed nothing. Then it flickered, and she saw herself running to the forest, alone, bleeding from her hands, screaming for Hansel. She stumbled back, knocking over a jar of bones that rolled across the floor with a hollow clatter. The next morning, the cellar was gone. A wall had replaced the door. Hansel claimed there had never been a cellar, and Mother Maren just smiled. Gretel confronted her. "What are you doing to him?" she asked. The witch only tilted her head. "Giving him what he's never had, a place to belong. Isn't that what you both wanted?" That night, Gretel dreamed of their old home, of her mother's lullaby turning into whispers in the trees. She woke with her fingers gripping a spoon from the cupboard, one with her own name carved on it. The next day, the paintings in the hall showed only one child, Hansel. In every image, he looked older, sharper, more regal. Gretel was nowhere to be found. Then came the voices. The house would creak at night, murmuring her name. The walls seemed to breathe when she leaned against them. One afternoon, while trying to find the kitchen, Gretel stepped into a room she had never seen before, a circle of roots and dirt, at the center of which was a tree stump carved with runes. The walls were made of bark, and the ceiling moved like leaves. It wasn't part of the house. It was part of the forest. A voice spoke from the air. He is not trapped. He is choosing. And once chosen, he cannot unchoose. Gretel ran to Hansel, shaking him, screaming, "Please, don't you remember?" But he didn't flinch. He whispered, "I remember enough to know I'm better off." That's when she saw it. A mark behind his ear, glowing faintly, a sigil. Her brother had been rewritten, not chained. She knew then that leaving wouldn't be enough. If she walked out alone, she'd leave her behind, and he'd never even miss her. But if she stayed, the house would consume her too. Her eyes darted to the oven. She wasn't going to escape. She was going to end it. Gretel waited until nightfall. The house hummed with lullabies, sweet and low, but she no longer heard comfort in them. Only seduction. Only rot. She crept into the kitchen, where the oven stood like a gaping mouth, flickering inside with unnatural blue fire. Beside it lay a basket of kindling, perfectly arranged, almost too perfect. Gretel hesitated, then grabbed the basket. She shoved it in hard, slamming the oven door shut. Then she turned. Mother Maren stood at the doorway, hands folded, eyes calm. "Are you ready?" the witch asked softly. Gretel didn't answer. She only reached for the oil lamp. But as she struck the flame, Hansel entered behind her. He didn't yell. He didn't plead. He only looked at her like she was the monster. "You're breaking everything," he said. "We were finally safe." Gretel's voice cracked. "You're not safe. You're not even you anymore." He walked closer. "I chose this." And she saw it again, the glowing sigil, pulsing like a heartbeat. Mother Maren stepped between them. "If you burn this house, you'll burn his choice too. You'll tear what he's become." Gretel's hands trembled, not because she feared the fire, but because part of her wanted to believe them. In that breath between action and surrender, the house spoke. Not with words, but with memory. Gretel saw flashes. Her mother coughing blood, her father selling tools for bread, Hansel crying under thin blankets. And then, images she had never seen. Hansel speaking to the witch in the forest, long before they arrived. A secret meeting. A promise made. Gretel screamed, staggering back. "You brought us here?" she asked. Hansel didn't answer, but he didn't deny it. That silence struck deeper than betrayal. It wasn't just the witch who had twisted him. He had invited it. The oven burst open, flames licking toward the ceiling. Gretel turned the lamp, spilling oil across the floor. The house wailed, a sound deeper than wood, older than time. Hansel stepped forward once more. "If you do this, I won't come with you." And for a heartbeat, she froze. Her brother, her only family, still standing in front of her, but unreachable. Her lips quivered. "Then I'm not saving you," she whispered. "I'm stopping you." She tossed a flame. Fire roared, curling up the walls. The last thing she saw was Hansel not running, just watching her burn the world he'd chosen. Gretel escaped through the back, coughing smoke, her arms cut by the thorns of the forest. She didn't look back until she heard it. Not screams, not collapse, but a song. Hansel's voice, singing the lullaby their mother used to hum. The same one that now echoed from the house as it burned. But the forest didn't close behind her. It opened wider as if waiting, and in that space between trees, shadows moved, shapes with familiar eyes. She wasn't sure if the fire had ended anything. Maybe it had only fed something older, something that remembered. Years passed, but the scent of smoke never left her. Gretel lived far beyond the forest, among people who spoke of witches only in hushed tales, who smiled too easily and locked their doors too tightly. She grew into a woman with quiet eyes and a scar across her palm, the only mark from that night she never let heal. She never told anyone what truly happened. Not about the house, not about the choice, not about the boy she left behind. Until one day, a child appeared at her door. A little girl, eyes wide, voice trembling. "I think I'm lost," she said. The child's story echoed her own. A father gone, a mother silent, a path that ended in hunger. Gretel fed her, warmed her by the fire. But as the girl slept, curled in a blanket too big for a small frame, Gretel stepped outside. And there, across the field, at the edge of the woods, stood the house, whole again, sugar windows gleaming, a new chimney, puffing sweet smoke. She hadn't seen it in years, had hoped it had died with the flames, but it had rebuilt itself, not in the same spot, but in the same shape. The forest had remembered. She walked to it alone. The air was still, as if holding its breath. She didn't knock. The door opened anyway. Inside, it was exactly as she remembered. Only this time, the paintings on the wall showed 3 children. One girl she didn't recognize, one boy she never forgot, and one image she couldn't place, until she looked closer. It was her, but older, standing at the door. The frame had no dust. It was newly hung. She stepped back slowly. The house wasn't waiting for a victim. It was expecting her. Gretel turned, running, not because of fear, but because she now understood. The house was never the witch's. It was the forest's. The witch had been its voice. Hansel had been its will. And now, it was offering her a new role, a new mask, maybe even a new name. The cycle didn't end when she lit the match. It simply waited until she was ready to become part of it. But she wouldn't. Not yet. She took the child and left. But as they disappeared over the hill, the girl looked back and whispered, "It was beautiful." Later that night, Gretel sat by the fire, holding the child's hand. She sang the lullaby their mother once hummed, soft, shaky, and as she did, a wind passed through the trees. Not cold, not warm, just familiar. Somewhere in that rustle, a voice spoke, Hansel's voice. "I'm still here." She didn't reply. She simply held the child closer, because she knew now the forest never forgets. It waits. It watches. And when the story starts again, it always chooses someone it already knows. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the forest breathing behind every word, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Your voice helps keep these forgotten versions alive. Become a member to support more twisted tales like this one. More dark reimaginings are already growing in the shadows, and you won't want to miss the next one.